The game I'm about to show you is the oldest ever chess game that follows the same rules we use today. It was played in the year 1497, exactly 526 years ago today. It was played between the Portuguese Pedro Damiano against an unknown opponent. If the name Pedro Damiano sounds familiar to you, it's because he has a few things named after him. The Damiano's mate is named after Pedro Damiano, as the first composition of the sequence was found in his chess book released in Rome in 1512. He was one of the first people to properly analyze a variety of openings, including the Philidor defense, the Gioco Piano, Petrol's defense, and the Queen's Gambit accepted. It was because of his expertise in opening analysis in the 1500s that the move 2f6 in the Philidor defense was coined the Damiano's defense, as he discovered white could sacrifice its knight and win the black rook. Pedro Damiano has several games recorded in the early 1500s, but this one is easily the most interesting. In this game, Pedro Damiano has the white pieces, and it starts out with e4, e5. On the second move, both knights come out to f3 and f6 respectively, and after that they both capture the hanging pawns. This is considered slightly better for white because after queen e2, queen e7, white can capture this knight, and black's route to recapturing this knight is not to capture with the queen, of course, because that would hang a queen, but it is to play d6 or f6, and this eventually captures the knight, but it compromises the pawn structure slightly. And this is exactly what happens in the game. If you thought that this opening looked familiar, you would be 100% correct. Even though that this game is over 500 years old, the opening is still commonly used today. And if you're wondering, well, how commonly and how recently has it been played, it was played by Grandmaster Fabio Caruana versus Grandmaster Shakhriyar Mamedyarov in the Norway 2023 Masters Blitz tournament. That was just 4 months ago at the top level of chess. But we immediately stray away from theory after white plays d4 because black responds with f6, and after something like knight c3, pawn takes, we'll play knight d5, hitting this fork. We force the queen to go to f7, and now we develop our bishop, and if you waste any time, we'll play pawn takes, and we'll hit this rook and this queen at the same time, giving white a huge advantage. Unfortunately, this idea is not quite found by Pedro Damiano, and he opts for f4 instead, but he has some plans with the move f4, and it kind of intertwines with the line we spoke about. After black plays the move knight d7, remember that this pin is not going anywhere because the queen will be pinned. He plays the move knight c3, and we get this knight out to the square that we wanted it on before, and it still has some nasty ideas on the queen. Before we continue, I want to remind you guys of the standard of chess that was being played just 22 years before this. This game was the earliest recorded game in chess history. I've already made a full video analyzing this game. If you would like to go and watch it, the link will be in the description. The game is between Narciso Vignoles and Francesco di Castelvi, and after the move queen f3, black completely blunders playing e6, allowing the rook to be taken in the corner. This was right up there with the best chess that was being played for its time, just 22 years before the Pedro Damiano game. The reason that I bring it up is because this game is about to get insane. After the move knight c3 by the white pieces, black then snaps off our knight, but we have to remember that it is still not too late to play this move knight d5, and that is exactly what Pedro Damiano goes for. Black could be in big trouble now because it needs to defend this fork, and the only move that does that whilst also moving the queen out of the attack of the knight is queen d6, which the player finds. But wait a minute, we just answered the question to this knight fork by moving our queen out of danger and defending the fork, and it's a mistake. Not only is it a mistake, but the evaluation just went from in this position plus 1.8 for the white pieces to in this position plus 3.6. Well, in this position, the only two moves that hold on are either f5 for the white pieces, sacrificing a pawn, or playing the move queen d8 to go backwards and defend this fork. because Pedro Damiano is about to unleash a disgusting combination. We start by trading off all of these pawns in the center because at the end of the day we're gonna give tempo on the queen. You cannot take like this because we'll take, and after the knight takes we have check here, winning the rook in the corner. Similarly, you cannot take with the knight because then white will play bishop f4 and this knight is pinned to the queen. You will have to counterattack this knight and play bishop e6, but after white castles and black castles, this knight is simply hanging and there is nothing that black can do about it. The best move in this position is actually to lose the knight with knight takes e5 and evade the pressure of the pawn. You can go into this line with the bishop pinning the knight to the queen and the queen pinning the knight to the king, and this is actually the best outcome for the black pieces. Instead, Pedro Damiano's opponent plays the move queen c6, and this is where Pedro Damiano gets crazy. He starts off with the unbelievable move, bishop b5, and if you take the bishop, we check here, and this is a fork of the rook, the king, and the queen, and white is completely winning. But wait a minute, we don't have to take this bishop, can't we just run away? Well, we have very limited options for the queen to run away, but there are options nonetheless, and we can start by trying to play queen g6. Queen g6 seems like a good move. It gets the queen out of danger, it threatens to trade the queens, and it also attacks this g2 pawn. But unfortunately for the black pieces, we have this dangerous silent move, queen h4, cutting off the queen. The best move for black here would be to sacrifice the bishop and play bishop d6, but we would capture this and black would still have some more problems. But let's say, for example, that black plays this way too slowly. a6 is a terrible move, but just to put the moves on the board, we will play knight c7 check, king f7, and then we will play bishop c4 check, queen blocks, bishop takes, king g6, and queen g4 checkmate, and all of the squares are covered. This bishop holds the dark squares, this bishop holds here and here, and this pawn holds the f6 square. Okay, maybe queen g6 doesn't work, but we still have this move queen c5, and maybe eventually we can get our queen out of danger and save our position. Maybe c6 comes. But the issue is that queen c5 is just too slow. It's the move that was played in the game, and it's the move that Pedro Damiano had an answer for because he responded with the incredible bishop e3, and the queen is entirely trapped. If you take here, you still get forked. There are simply no squares that you can go to that get your queen out of the danger in the game. This queen took this bishop, this fork was made, the king ran over, and the queen was captured, and the game ended there. This chess game is literally the second oldest game to ever be recorded in history. Although there was no castling in this game because it was so short, it is also the oldest ever chess game to be recorded that uses our modern castling rules. In the same year in Salamanca, this game was also played between Lucina and an unknown player. This game is the first ever record of castling in chess, and black was the first to do it castling long. I hope you guys enjoyed this analysis of this game, and let me know in the comments below, if the clocks ticked back to the 1500s, do you think you would have a chance at beating either of these two players?